Nothing is impossible here. Push the boundaries of your imagination and immerse yourself in the mystery of the past. Now prepare to become a pharaoh, because this is your adventure. The year is 900 BC, and the place is the ancient Egyptian civilization, your land. As you are described as the son of the sun, you must work hard and wake up with the first light of dawn. You have a lot to do. Even before going to the breakfast room, your servants will perform your personal care. This is very important for both your health and appearance. All Egyptian status-holding men and women would protect themselves from the harmful effects of the sun and try to resemble the god Horus by wearing black coal around their eyes. The attendants will remove all body hair, including your hair. You might use a fake goat beard, but you must protect yourself from lice and stay away from hair. Then, your whole body will be washed with various perfumes and creams to make you smell good and reduce the effect of the sun. There was no way to get rid of the annoying flies in those years. They can get on your nerves a lot, but some of the previous pharaohs used to have servants with their bodies completely covered in honey. This way, the flies in the room were occupied with the honeyed servants. Every day is a new beginning. And have you noticed how short everyone was? One of your ancestors, Ramses II, is known as the tallest pharaoh and looked enormous with just a height of 1.73 meters, 5 feet 8 inches. Don't let this surprise you. Because in those years, due to one-sided nutrition and living standards, the average height of Egyptian men was around 1.63 meters, 5 feet 4 inches. At the same time, the average height in Central Asia was 1.58 meters, 5 feet 2 inches, and in Europe, it was around 1.66 meters, 5 feet 5 inches. The capital of your reign is Thebes, and the style of this city is quite impressive. Amun is the greatest god, and although he has different depictions, you are currently seeing one of them. Another who is as important as him is Ra, the one with that interesting head. Ra carries a sun disk on his head because he is the sun god. After a while, the two will form the cult of Amun-Ra. But what's important right now is to go to the temple and offer your gratitude to Amun. Because today, there is a ceremony, and you, as the pharaoh, are also the high priest. Since it is believed that you have divine qualities, after leaving the temple, you must go to the Nile River and release your semen into the flowing water. This is a ritual done for a fertile harvest season. Although it is not done very often, it is performed from time to time. Remember that your people's most important livelihood comes from the agricultural products obtained in the fertile plains of the Nile, and never spoil your relationship with the clergy, because Egyptian temples have their own military power and vast economies. Also, as they are religious institutions, they have the support of the people. These men are not to be trifled with, and if they label you as an enemy of religion, the uneducated masses will also stand against you. Only one Egyptian pharaoh clashed with the religious authorities, and that was Akhenaten. He introduced one of the earliest known monotheistic beliefs. However, this monotheistic belief was an interesting system where the sun was accepted as a god rather than an invisible deity, and it didn't catch on. But it brought great destruction. This Akhenaten, also known as the sun-worshipping pharaoh, changed the capital, and the country experienced great internal turmoil, wars, and famine. An authority could not be established. After Akhenaten's death, he was given the title of Egypt's worst ruler, and the sun religion he spread disappeared, giving way to the temple of Amun again, and was erased from history. Even his own family returned to the Amun belief. Oh, by the way, if you are planning to marry soon, make your choice carefully, because marriage between siblings is quite common in the royal family. This practice, which is intended to keep power within the family, can cause terrible impressions about you even 3,000 years after your death. Therefore, it would be better to choose someone who is not related to you by blood. But before marrying, be sure to ask your prospective spouse to remove their headdress, because Egyptian women also shaved their heads and wore wigs or various headdresses. So, the first appearance can be deceiving. It doesn't matter whether the children to be born are male or female. Women can also become pharaohs in the country. Because social and economic equality prevails throughout the country. Some of your female pharaoh ancestors also wore fake beards. They did this not to resemble men, but because it was a divine symbol. By the way, new threats can come from the north at any moment. You know that the biggest trouble for Egypt came from the Hittites, an Anatolian people. The Hittites, being both a powerful civilization and a warrior people, your grandfather Ramses II also engaged in a great war. As a result of this war, equality was established, and the Treaty of Kadesh, the first written treaty in history, was made. As long as the Egyptian army is based on chariot soldiers and archers with good marksmanship, you can stand for a long time. But don't forget that Hittite agents are roaming everywhere in the country. The Egyptian legal system, which has been going on for thousands of years, is quite developed. People can seek their rights in courts. Even in divorces, there are compensations and alimony exchanges. Monogamy is mandatory and rape was punished by castration. The nose of a woman who was with a married man was also cut off. In fact, the punishment for many crimes is nose cutting. There are even towns in some regions of Egypt where people with cut noses live together. Theft is punished by hand cutting or imprisonment. After a while, these laws will be adopted by the Jews first and will form the basic legal system of many religions. Don't forget that cats are also sacred. You shouldn't harm them. Egyptians believed that the eyes of cats shining in the dark symbolized their sun god Ra. Ra would continue to shine in the darkness of the underworld after the sun went down. And for many reasons like this, cats were considered sacred. Killing them is often punishable by death. In a house where a cat dies, mourning is held for days. A funeral is held and the cat is mummified. Now you think how important they are. Well, as an Egyptian pharaoh, are you curious about the firsts of your ancestors in history? For example, the first engagement ring tradition, nursing homes, the first modern toilets, the first professional female doctors, female business people, all existed. Even medicine was so advanced in ancient Egypt that various surgeries were performed. Antidotes and medicines were obtained from snake venoms, toothpaste was used, and circumcision was so common that you can see various tools even in ancient drawings. Although people today think that there was a harsh slavery system in Egypt, in fact, there was perhaps a better labor union than today. Leave aside the Hollywood-style symbols of working with a whip on their backs, because the truth is completely different. It has been definitively proven in excavations carried out in the Deir el-Medina region that the whipping of workers is completely a myth. They had weekly and annual leave, health insurance, homes, regular salaries, daily beer and sun oil allowances, schools for their children, and even courts to apply for injustice. Their marriages was also covered by the state, and they were given dowries. When there was a problem with the body creams given to the workers, the first worker protest in history took place during the reign of Ramses III. Fortunately, we know these things because they recorded everything. But interestingly, there is no archaeological evidence of the Hebrew slaves who were oppressed in Egypt, which is briefly told in the Torah and forms the basis of Jewish belief. At the same time, such a population movement is not found in the records of Egyptian history. Speaking of pyramids, you can design one for yourself. The inside of a pyramid is full of various booby traps, dark paths, labyrinths, and cursed hieroglyphs. Their locations are usually prepared synchronously with the stars in the sky. They are full of treasures, and every square is equipped with mathematical precision. For example, the Pyramid of Cheops, built in the name of the ruler Cheops, consists of 2,300,000 blocks of stone, and each weighs tons. The pharaoh's tomb is inside, 40 meters above the ground and 100 meters below the top point. Even though people thought thousands of years after your death that aliens might have helped you and your ancestors in the construction of these pyramids, in fact, this is nothing more than a tourist mystery and legend. Because it was recently understood that there were quarries around the places where the pyramids were built, and the blocks were transported from there. Ramps, hundreds of meters long, which took years to prepare, were built to pull the rocks to the upper parts, and the blocks were transported with the labor of animals and people plus a tremendous mathematical work. A workforce of 100,000 people was provided in the construction of the Pyramid of Cheops. But mathematics is so important that even a centimeter deviation made while preparing the ground can cause the summit to be crooked and reveal a different shape, and it will ruin your afterlife. Before being buried there, you will be mummified. Your internal organs will be removed and placed in jars, and your brain will be removed from your nose with the help of a hook. Only your heart is allowed to stay in place, because Egyptians believe that the ability to think is in the heart. When all the operations are completed, you will be placed in your room with your treasures. They will never leave you alone. Let the eyes of the Mat army always be on the walls of your tomb, because whenever you make a mistake, they will all watch as your conscience and will not leave you alone, even in your eternal life, to correct your mistakes with their sharp eyes. Days will pass, even thousands of years later, humanity will continue to wonder about your mystery and observe everything you built with admiration, even your rotten body. So much so that 70% of the archaeological excavations carried out in the world will be carried out in Egypt. And even though the modern Egyptian people consider your works as idols and infidel remnants, they will still be able to sustain their economies thanks to you. Fortunately, as a young pharaoh before, you have a long life ahead of you. Perhaps you will remain on the throne for 90 years like your ancestor Pharaoh Pepi, or 60 years like the legendary ruler Ramses II, and bring prosperity to your country. You can subscribe to my channel to reach more content